short, with the FIFA Master, with some months in Leicester, in Montfort University, and it must be respected. And that's why we are proud to, and it must be respected. And that's why we are proud to say that some months ago, we got calls from the Federation saying, congratulations, Rangers is one of the few clubs that had no case at the arbitration committee. Also got calls from the NPFL board to say we should keep what we are doing. And that's it, summarily. Thank you. Thanks, man.
Hello, everyone. Before I'm starting to introduce myself, I would like to say thanks Poyas for inviting me to be here with you. Really, I'm so excited to be in this event, sharing my knowledge with all the students. We start today in Nigeria, but tomorrow we have to be in all Africa. This is our ambition. As I told in the interview, to support this idea, we have to do something. So we are in Sports and Justice, one of the sports law firm in Egypt. We make us a prize for the winner team. The winner team will get an internship with us in the Sports and Justice for 3 months. To introduce myself to you, my name is Islam Sham. I'm an international sports lawyer with 10 years experience in sports law, in sports industry actually. Countries. I have 2 master's degree, one from Cairo University in international trade law, and one in international sports law from SD, Spain. We are founder of Sports and Justice, me and Shaima. We are, she is my wife, and she is also the sports lawyer, my partner in sports and justice. Really, it's a good idea, but I wanted to advise people to get married with a sports lawyer. It's good. I'm not argue and say no. As she said, I was the head of legal department for Nasser Saudi Club, the club of Cristiano Ronaldo. Really, it was a good experience. We did a lot of job there. And as she said, I started my career as a football player. I played in many clubs in Egypt because I was a football player. I was a referee, then sports lawyer for 10 years of experience. So I'm happy to be here to share my knowledge with all of these people. And we are, as I said, in sports and justice. We are specializing to spread awareness. I think idea and the goals in sports and justice. We established sports and justice to do so, to spread awareness in sports law and in all Africa. This is our goal. So I'm sorry to be long about you. So I will share my day.
Yes, you can sit. Battery is low.
I'm happy to be on FLAM conference. Actually, thanks to all speakers and thanks to all attendees for being here. My name is Shaima Dari, international sports lawyer, co-founder of Sports and Justice and managing partner also, and the head of women in Sports and Justice. My master's degree was in intellectual property in sports law, and also I'm a WIPO EDR member of Arbitration and Mediation Center in WIPO. As Mr. Islam said, we in Sports and Justice seek to spread the knowledge of sports law, and that's why I made my initiative in conscious female player to spread the knowledge of sports law for female sector, because I believe that most of female athletes don't have the knowledge and the idea of sports law. This is my target this era. I really hope to enjoy the conference today, and thanks.
Thank you very much. With everything that we have heard just now, I believe that you all can agree with me that seated here are the best of the best. And I promise you, they are ready to share so much insights from their wealth of knowledge and experience. Please, can we give them another round of applause? Okay, while they were speaking, a very important guest walked in, and we have to specially recognize him as well. So please, can we put our hands together as I recognize the presence of Dr. Emmanuel Olubafemi Olowunono, the head property of law practice at Nigerian Law School, Abuja. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Your presence is appreciated. All right, so let's get into the business of today. As I earlier said, the theme of today's event is the FIFA Clearinghouse Regulations, the journey so far for African training clubs. And so I think I'll just pick at random. Go first. Mr. Mohammed Miwali, can you please give us an overview of the FIFA Clearinghouse rules and their objectives?
That's a bigger question. That's like the main subject of a file containing like 300 pages or something. The FIFA Clearinghouse is simply a chamber that established to collect all the training rewards from the clubs that buys or willing to buy new players that plays or played before in some other clubs. So from the age of 12 to the age of 23, the contribution, or age of 12 until 21 if it's training compensation. So they collect all this money to share it with the clubs that the player played from 12 to 21 or 12 to 23. That's simply the main purpose of the clearinghouse chamber.
Thank you very much. Does any other person have something to add to what Mr. Mohammed has just said regarding what the FIFA Clearinghouse Regulations is all about? Does anyone have any additional thing to say?
Can you hear me? Okay. As Mr. Mohammed said, FIFA Clearinghouse is an intermediary bank established by FIFA to just to transfer the money from the club to the new clubs for the training compensation and solidarity contribution. To be honest, the main point of clearinghouse is to spread the transparency and the integrity for the clubs and for financial stability, for financial transaction. FIFA made clearinghouse for doing something. Number one, the main objectives for that one, number one, to make awareness of and to make the transparency and the integrity for the financial transaction. I think number two is the fair payment. FIFA wanted to ensure that all clubs, especially the small clubs, will receive payments related to compensation and solidarity contribution. FIFA want to ensure that the due payment will go to the due clubs. And this is one of important objective for clearing house. Also, preventing fraud. FIFA want to ensure that there is no illegal activities, because that FIFA made the clearing house to ensure that the due money or the due payment taken from the new club to be distributed to the former clubs. I think also to protect clubs. One of the main objectives is to protect clubs, especially small clubs, especially the clubs that don't know anything about training compensation. FIFA, do you know in the past and in the practical side in the past, a lot of clubs doesn't know anything about training compensation, solidarity contribution. They lost a lot of money. They lost a lot of chances to gain money and to promote and to develop the young player, because that FIFA especially made that FIFA clearing house. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isham. So we are clear now on what the FIFA clearinghouse rules are all about and their objectives. So my next question is, what are the notable achievements or successes of the FIFA clearinghouse since its implementations? Anyone is free to take this.
Okay. I think I can give this a shot. Since the implementation of the regulation, the rules have significantly had great impact on global football, especially, like Isham said, with respect to clubs' financial interest, with respect to financial transparency, and fostering fairness when it comes to international player transfers. And some of the notable achievements include improved transparency. By centralizing payments, you find that, especially payments related to international transfers, the clearinghouse ensures that transfer fees, that solidarity contributions, that training compensations are correctly distributed to entitled parties. So to break it down, the old regime was in such a way that if you don't know about the movement of these monies, you are shut out. So a club in a tiny village in Kano, where the proprietor has been investing, does not even know that his player who has moved from a club in Kano to Rangers, and from Rangers to Ayers, from Ayers to England, the club in England, that he's entitled to something, he is cut off. So the introduction of the current regime has made it possible that even in the man's of knowledge, with proper documentation, when money is paid, it trickles down even to the tiniest club in any part of the world. I think it's a great effort towards making sure that football monies are properly redistributed. And earlier today I was telling AB, I was excited when the FIFA clearinghouse regulation was announced, and some years ago I wrote an article that I tagged White Christmas, and because it was in November, it was in the code in Switzerland, I think, and a lot of arguments came up with respect to protecting the interests of especially African clubs in Africa. I'm not talking of Al Ahly now, I'm not talking of Rangers or anybody big clubs, I'm talking of the tiny clubs, maybe in Suez in Egypt or somewhere in Zimbabwe. Again, another impact is that it has strengthened grassroots clubs. From what I have just said, you can imagine what grassroots clubs will enjoy with the flow of these compensations, with the flow of these training contributions or solidarity contribution. It has also reduced financial misconduct, like he said. Before now, there have been cases of money laundering and all that. But now, the impact globally with the introduction of the FIFA clearinghouse regulation is that you cannot find your way through when it comes to this. Again, the processes has now been simplified, although this is arguable because, yes, because last night, Pius, you remember, we had a lot of arguments about the simplicity of even trying to get your training compensation, your solidarity contribution. In the old model, in less than 3 months, you have your money, but now you have to wait for 365 days with hard prayers, serious night prayers. But again, the automation of financial flows between clubs has reduced administrative burdens and disputes, providing a streamlined, transparent process for all stakeholders. The next impact is with respect to global adoption. Many football associations and worldwide have embraced the clearinghouse, although, as you all know, some clubs as well have gone to court in Europe to challenge, the validity of the FIFA clearinghouse regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it's clear that despite the brilliant idea behind the FIFA clearinghouse, there are still issues that need to be fully resolved. So I would like to know, I believe the audience, I'm speaking on behalf of the audience here, how have the clearinghouse rules affected the international transfer market and financial stability, particularly for African clubs? Okay.
Yes, I've listened to my colleagues' brilliant interventions regarding the FIFA clearinghouse. Without doubt, it's a novel idea and a brilliant one at that. But in the implementation of the clearinghouse, I have a lot of issues. It's almost very frustrating. You see, like Moot rightly pointed out, a club like Chelsea, Ajax, Al Ahly, Zamalek, Esperance might not have a problem in assessing whatever is the entitlement in the clearinghouse. But if an Okeobi Academy in my village in Ehala, Anambra State, is able to produce a player that eventually finds his way to be playing in, say, Chelsea, Real Madrid, and then to get the training compensation for that transaction, you're asking that little academy that I and my friends in my village put together and were able to train that boy. You're not asking us to produce very onerous, that's the word I will use, documents to support. To start with, this is something we just put together. It's not even a limited liability company, all right? This is practical. This is what obtains here. Yes, there are so many clubs that are limited, but this one is not a limited liability company. Okay? Okay, assuming it's even a limited liability company, it's owned by I and my friends or some villagers. And then you're not asking us to upload statement of account to show You're asking us to upload the evidence of the directors, their means of livelihood, and whatever. And these are probably farmers and petty traders in my village. So, you see, it gets to the point, I almost said something that we had discussed about this last night, that at the point, Pius had to call them and tell them that the owner of this club wants to go and commit suicide. It's frustrating. He took that threat of suicide for them to know that, come on, there are things that what applies, what is norm, what is regular in Europe is not the same thing. You cannot have the same measure. All right? I am sorry. Yes, it's global, it's best practice and all that. But there's need for the clearinghouse regulation to take into consideration the local circumstances in Africa. That's my take. I don't have any issue, and I love it because you see, when you look at the number of disputes over that go before, whether it's FIFA DRC or CAS, you will notice that most of them are about monetary disputes. I transferred this player, I did not receive the transfer fee. It's all about training compensation. It's all about solidarity contribution. Yes, this clearinghouse will solve or mitigate that problem to some extent, but it must take into consideration the local circumstances in Africa. All right? If, for example, you say, upload evidence that is a limited liability company that is registered under the laws, that he has an account, please, for God's sake, pay them their money. Yeah. Why are you asking what the contributors, the directors, or little petty traders in the village are doing? These guys, they just do their business and make their money and invest in this club. So that's my own issue with the clearinghouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You know what's funny? I've not even reached the part where I have to ask about the challenges. Yet two of the panelists have already spoken about it to show you how overbearing this thing is. The institution that is meant to mitigate these challenges have not done the job yet. And I still just want to, does anyone have, specifically Miss Evie, you spoke about how you're passionate about the grassroots clubs. Do you have anything to add regarding these challenges that these grassroots clubs are still facing despite the institution?
Well, yeah, I mean, as you've heard it, like, everybody is facing these challenges. I was one of the advocates initially when I heard about the FIFA clearinghouse. Like Barrister Moby said, you know, he wrote an article, White Christmas. We thought it was going to be a brilliant thing because I found myself constantly chasing European teams. In the old system, you're chasing European teams to tell them that there's a club in Nigeria, you know, like Bryce Lobby said, in like a small village somewhere, who trained the player, and we need to get their solidarity. And they'll always give you the excuse that they were unaware about, you know, about the club. Or I've actually had some tell me they didn't understand the accent of the person who called to speak to them. You know, you hear so many different kinds of excuses. So when I heard about the clearinghouse, I thought, hallelujah, no hiding place for any of these clubs now. It's going to be automatic. As soon as a player transfer takes place, it's going to trigger an automatic.
It's supposed to be 90 days.
Exactly, you know, it's supposed to be 90 days. However, I mean, I did a video on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, in relation to this, and I actually had to go and put a disclaimer 2 years later to say, yes, I said this, but I'm actually changing my mind slightly now, you know, because what I've seen in reality, the theory and the reality, the practicals have been totally different. And yeah, it's just difficult. I mean, Barry Sloppy basically said, you know, he said it all. You know, he basically said, you know, a lot of things that I actually had in mind, I wanted to talk about. But yeah,
The matter is long.
the matter is long. We're constantly, yeah, you know, I've sent numerous emails to the FIFA Clearinghouse as well to try and support, because again, you can't treat you know, the European clubs the same way that you treat the African teams, because we have certain disabilities here. You know, I say that with all due respect. Things don't work. The system isn't the same, so there has to be some kind of special treatment that's given, you know, to us over here. There's a lot of order in England, because that's where I live, and I know that there's registration right from, you know, when the player is 6 years old, when they start playing, whereas you don't have that here.
I don't have that now.
You know, yeah. So that's one of the big issues.
Thank you very much. Please a round of applause for Ms. Epi. So we've heard about the challenges.
Sorry, let me put this here. You know, you're asking like the typical example, because at the end of the day, you have, we're not talking about the 20 clubs in the Premier League. We're not talking about maybe the 150 or 80 in the X-level league, which is national league, all right? We're looking at those grassroots clubs that are all over the whole place. Do you think that if they are so well organized that every year they have audited account, do you think, no, but it's true, and you're now asking for audited accounts? Well, the man is just putting money in this club and enjoying himself, and all of a sudden you're not telling him he has to go and produce audited accounts of how many. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I think it should stop at the point. The beauty of it would have been if I do a transfer with Ibrahim over Eddie, and the transfer is for 10 naira. I pay the 10 naira to Amobi, the clearing house. Amobi gives Ibrahim the transfer, the fees for the transfer, and then distributes the solidarity mechanism and training compensation to Isha and the wife and every other person. Simple.
Oh my God.
You know, once they are, it is established in the player passport that is before FIFA that these are the clubs. You
Okay, see some studio pictures.
why
Leave them.
stress them? I know you're trying to prevent, but the people have established that the owners of this club, so give them the money. Which of the ones is that about? Why are you interested in their statement of account? What does the statement of account of the club? Yes.
I think FIFA should make like workshops or to spread awareness about the FIFA clearing house, because most of the clubs in Egypt, even in Egypt, which is considered a big clubs in the Africa, I mean, it's in the Premier League, like Moot, Al-Masri, Zamalek, Ahli, everyone. They don't know about the mechanism of the compliance of the FIFA clearing house. They always have struggling with the mechanism of these FIFA clearing house. They always ask lawyers, what is this email? So we have a lot of emails. What is this about? What is this about? What is this about? They ask me for documentation here, and they ask me for the same documentation the other day. It's the same one. So it's very complicated to compliance with the FIFA clearing house in Africa. Not only the small clubs in South or Mid-Africa, also the big clubs in Africa. You talked about the Malik Al-Ahli, they are also struggling. So it has to be like simplified. They have to provide workshops, spread awareness about the thing. I don't know, this is the way. Or we have all the clubs to make like something unified, like you have to make a united club association or something, African club association, like the one in Europe, that can talk on behalf of the African clubs or defend our thoughts on FIFA or be on behalf of that. So that's, in my opinion, this is the only solution. We have to teach the people how to comply before we ask them to provide it.
You want to add something?
But I think, yes, I know the negative part from clearinghouse, FIFA clearinghouse, but I think this is a new system. So any new system have a lot of problems. So, and what we see from FIFA, that FIFA, when it sees that there is a lot of issues and a lot of problems in something, sometimes FIFA change and sometimes no. But now, from my opinion, this is a time for lawyers. This is a time for Africa to say no about something. Like Epe said, said that she took the initiatives, sent a lot of emails to FIFA about the issues, about the problems. So it's not like about united of clubs, but we have, in Africa, we have to have united of lawyers. It's a very, very important thing. We have a lot of good lawyers, we have a lot of qualified lawyers, so we can do something. We can send a lot of emails to FIFA to fight about this, to fight about protection of our clubs. Because sometimes we talk about our clubs, but to be honest, our clubs most of them doesn't have a qualification to talk with FIFA about this issue. We know that. Our clubs sometimes don't know about anything about training competition, but I can say about clearinghouse. There is now we have a lot of clubs in Egypt, in Africa, don't know anything about FIFA clearinghouse and how it's work and what is this.
Yeah.
So
that's the question.
Yes.
What is this FIFA clearinghouse?
Yes, this is very, very, very important to have a united or the bar for a sports lawyer here in Africa and to take the initiatives every time to speak loudly to FIFA that we have a problems here. This is very important. So this is
that's why we're here.
Yes.
We need more sports lawyers.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, let's give them a round of applause. See, the whole problem and challenges, there's a lot to talk about. And we could stay here all day, to be honest, but we have to keep the time. And that is why I'm just going to wrap up my final question and just throw it to the panelists. You've told us we Africans, I'm not a footballer, but we are aggrieved and we are not happy about the situation of things. So what can we do? How can African clubs mitigate these challenges? What are the solutions? What are the recommendations? What do you suggest we can do to move forward so that next year the topic of discussion will be different? We'll be on a much more lighter note and we'll be giving testimonies instead of, challenges. Go on.
Okay, so I think one of the biggest challenges that we have, as you might have picked up, is the compliance, the compliance assessment that you have to pass. So, as my colleague mentioned earlier on, the FIFA clearinghouse is a separate entity to FIFA, and they have a legal obligation to ensure that anybody that they're transacting with is abiding by or complying with international regulations in relation to things like anti-money laundering, anti-bribery and corruption, and making sure that the funds that are coming into the clearinghouse are not proceeds of terrorism and all those kind of things. So in order to comply with the regulations, they need to ensure that the clubs or member associations that they're transacting with are also compliant, which is the reason why they go through the whole compliance process. Now, Barrister Obi mentioned the fact that they ask for all this information. They ask for documentation, they ask for statements of accounts, they want CAC documentation, they want to know who's funding the club, where they're getting the money from, all that kind of information. And this is one of the barriers we have at the moment. So I think one of the main things, FIFA Clearinghouse is here and it's hanging around for a while. That's basically what I see. So we need to start embracing it. We need to start embracing it instead of resisting it. We need to start accepting that we need to start doing something to help the clubs to comply. So first of all, getting a qualified lawyer who can help you, who understands, is definitely very important. Those clubs who, like Barry Slopey said, who are probably not registered, they're not legal entities at the moment, they're just small clubs somewhere, just throwing in money. Just the academy is trying to get them up to speed with their documentation, help them register and become legal entities. I was working with a club who was asked for bank statements. They didn't even have a bank account. So how are you going to provide 3 months bank statements for, they don't even have a bank account. So something like that is a problem because then you're not able to comply if you fail the compliance test, so which means you're not going to get your money. And that has a knock-on effect for all the other clubs that are involved in that process. So yeah, I think and also another problem as well is some of the other African countries, because the FIFA clearinghouse, you can only submit documentation in English, French, and Spanish. So if you're from one of the other African countries that doesn't speak any of those languages, you're having to translate it, before you submit it. So it's about just having the workshops, and educating the awareness, and just trying to get everybody ready for. Some of the small clubs I work with, I've already told them, right, go and get yourself a bank account, make sure that you have your CAC documentation, go and register. So, I'm prepping them, I'm getting them ready for. So as soon as, because they've transferred players, so we know that there is going to be, at some point, a trigger for the solidarity of training conversation, so they're going to be ready. And I also appeal to the NFF to also help and assist the clubs with getting their players onto the FIFA systems, the electronic systems, because this also helps when the review of the electronic player passport comes around. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me come in at this point. I'll take it up from where Eric stopped. I personally, if you ask me, I'm of the well-considered view that FIFA, to start with, didn't do so well with sensitization, training, and enlightenment when it comes to, as regards the clearinghouse regulations. I say this against the background of having in this system long enough. I know how from the times we were typing out international transfer certificates to when we got to the transfer matching system. I know the level and the amount of trainings that we had to go to in Switzerland, that people had to come down to Nigeria at the level of the federation and put us through the TMS before it became effective. And then from there, the same scenario. We had to go back to Switzerland when the NFL decided to adopt the domestic transfer matching system in 2016. And they also followed up coming here. And then, naturally, when 3 or 4 personnel of the federation are trained by FIFA, it's only natural that when they come back, what they start to do is they start to organize the same trainings for the first and foremost the Premier League clubs, all the National League, and all the amateur clubs, which was what we did with the transfer matching system. And today you will notice that everybody is on the transfer matching system and there's no problem. But you see, I like what Isham said, that there's need for sports lawyers, sports arbitrators to take on FIFA to the point that they need to come to a decision to say, hey, we didn't quite get this right. Let's suspend this and go back to the drawing board. Listen, it is not impossible to correct all this through trainings, enlightenment, and sensitization. It can be solved. But if we continue on this route, you will get to the point that instead of all the lofty ideas, I remember when we were in Switzerland in mid-2000, about 2007 or between 2007 or 2009 for TMS training. That was when the idea of this clearinghouse was mooted. What I understood that time is that they want to advance to the point that you have like a central bank for transfers, where if there's a transfer, the money around that transfer is paid to that central bank, and that central bank pays from the money paid by the transferor to the transferee, and then the ones that are mapped out for training compensation, the ones that are mapped out for solidarity contribution, are distributed seamlessly. But I submit personally that FIFA has not done enough enlightenment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any of the panelists have anything to add?
Yeah, I think for me, I will add that in addition to having conglomeration of sports lawyers from Africa taking this up, a few years ago we were in Cairo to have the annual General Assembly of the African Club Association. This issue has great impact on African clubs. I know Mr. Mosepe is passionate about advancing African clubs. The African Clubs Association, they have a great role to play. Because I tell you for free, if the European Club Association, if they have a need, they will go all out.
Oh, yeah.
They will go all out. Even beyond going to cars, they will go to the regular civil courts.
Yes. The European Court.
Yes. So why is it that we are now talking of just African sports lawyers from Egypt, from Nigeria, from Kenya coming together to fight for the right, for the protection of clubs in Africa? What is the role of the African Club Association? Is it just to merely go to Cairo, have a dinner, discuss, and adopt our statute? It should be beyond that. And this is a very sensitive case, because in as much as we speak about this today, a lot of negativity, a lot of clubs are suffering. Like the simplest example, the simplest pictures painted here today. How many clubs from the grassroots will proudly submit their bank statement? And you are talking of CAC or filing of annual report. That's incredible. Annual report. Even big clubs in Africa don't file annual report. You can just, maybe the top shots, maybe Rangers, Alali can boast they filed annual reports for the past years. But what of the other clubs? So it's a challenge not just to lawyers, but to the African Club Association and even to the member associations, because the member associations are also impacted when these things happen. We are talking of football economy here. When you talk of football economy, the member association, they have a role to play. And I'm happy that our boss, the GS, is here and he's assimilating all these discussions. And I know that by the time he goes to their general meeting of the general secretaries, he will as well pass this to them and let them know that CAF, the 54 member associations in Africa, African sports lawyers, African Club Association, imagine such force. And then FIFA will really, they will think about it and they will shift grounds. And finally, last night we also spoke and we were of the opinion that fine, the FIFA clearinghouse is perfect, but we could have just juxtaposed the old system and the new system. Keep open the old system while we try to understand fully the new system and give a timeline for the shutdown of the old system. So the old system is in 3 months I get my training compensation, I get my solidarity contribution. The new system is also in vogue. We are trying to learn it. Mr. Obi in Ihiala is trying to learn with his village club, and Ali Cairo in Kano is trying to learn from his village club. And when this is well gotten, we shut down the old system and we embrace the new system.
Okay. Please a round of applause for our panelists. So much insight has been shared here today. Like, everybody nodding their heads, my head will almost fall off. But like, thank you very much. And I've exhausted my questions, but I want to open the floor for any questions from the audience.
Well, mine is not a question, but to say that I'm extremely excited, and to also say that what the discussants, the panelists said is very apt. Barrister Obi started it all. And while it was going on, I said, how I wish I am on that side so that I could share my opinion. Now, to me, FIFA Cleanhouse is very, very important and beneficial as far as football is concerned. But what was doing well. And a very, very important ingredient has been left behind. People who are supposed to benefit from this are mostly Africans and the developing countries. But while the plan was on, the interest of Europe was more considered than that of Africa and developing countries. It has failed to adhere to the principles of do it from known to unknown and from simple to the complex. The procedures have been made so complex that people who are supposed to benefit from it are actually finding it very difficult to benefit from it. And the simple logic was that while it was going on, a proper research was not done to find out the problems or how to go about doing it. For example, now if they had written to the federations to say, look, we want to start this, we want to start that, what are those things that you think we can do to make it simple, such that even club in the local environment can also be able to benefit from it. Now, if they have done that, probably the federations or some of the African and the developing countries will give them some of the things that need to be done. We rely so much on what is happening in Europe. When we know that what is happening in Europe is not the same as this. I am not a lawyer, but I will tell you that a researcher in educational psychology said when a child is up to the age of 20, he stops growing in weight and in height. That is a research that is mostly oriented. When you come to African countries, you know that even at the age of 20, you still see children growing. But that is what we are working with. And that is exactly what is applicable to this kind of situation. So I am of the opinion that, just like Barrister Obi said, lawyers, African lawyers should come together, sit down, articulate their position, and send their report to FIFA Clearinghouse. I can assure you that I'm the leader of all the 54 African General Secretaries, and I will take this matter up. By next week, we'll have a meeting and we'll discuss this. We'll also look up this.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we'll just be taking 2 more questions and we would call it a wrap. Kindly introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hello, good morning. My name is Islamia Tonida Mola Kolaoli. I'm a master's student at Coach University, Turkey. My question is simply that we have identified, the panelists have articulated the problems attributed to the practical implementation of the clearinghouse rules. But genuinely, I'm curious that the making of these rules in the first place, does it reflect a set of memberships that are, that have expertise in the peculiarities of Africa? Because, for example, when we're making, when you're making laws that are meant to bind a set of persons, you would ordinarily expect that the people that are familiar with the problems, like Nigerians, Africans that are closer to the problems, that know where things ought, would be part of the rule-making process. So while we're talking about addressing this problem, I think the first thing we should consider is that, is the continent fairly and properly represented in the body and association that make these rules in the first place? I think that is part of the things we could discuss, and I'm genuinely curious about that. Thank you.
It's an absolutely brilliant question, and it's a question I put on one of my articles on LinkedIn. I was asking who exactly in Africa was consulted when these rules were put together. And I don't know whether anybody has any more specific answers. However, when I was speaking to Mitt earlier on, in Egypt, they don't really have a problem with FCH because they don't have as many international transfers. So if you had somebody from Egypt, the problem wouldn't have been highlighted because they don't really have that, they don't have as many international transfers. So like a lot of the work I do is in Nigeria and Ghana, and I know that the problem is worse here because of probably just the wealth of talent we have and the number of transactions, number of transfers that we have. So, if there were people from other smaller countries in Africa who were involved in this, the conversations, then they would have been able to highlight the problems that we're facing at the moment. So, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know, does anybody else have anything probably a bit more constructive to add?
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. I think we can actually go back to the Bosman decision, and you find the Europeanization of the general football regulation, the concept. You understand? You find that, for instance, the decision of the European Court of Justice in the Bosman decision just reflected, reflected the European laws. The consideration of movement in Africa when it comes to football players was never considered. And that comes back again to what the GS said, to what almost all of us here have said. Who were those consulted before the enactment and actual coming into practice of the FIFA Clearinghouse regulation? Let's even leave the FIFA Clearinghouse regulation aside. What of the regulation on the status and transfer of players? Who are those consulted before clauses are inserted in the regulation and statutes transfer of players? Who are those consulted? These are pertinent questions. Or you just talk of France, you talk of Switzerland, you talk of Spain, England, and the big wigs. That is the major question. What considerations, what yardsticks, who represents the thoughts of members from Africa? Because I don't think that Asians would also have the kind of problems we have. Our problem is peculiar. So if you are making these regulations, you must also reflect, since we are among the 200 and something members of FIFA, then our interests must be protected as well. So I feel, for one, that regulations made by men can be altered by men. And if these regulations have been so Europeanized, then we must continue to drum for East Africanization as well. And they can always go side by side. That is what I believe in.
Thank you, Ms. Ebi and Mr. Amodi, for your brilliant answers. We are streaming this event online, and we have a question from one of our online guests. And the person asked, In a situation where the clubs have no activity in their bank statements, would the club still be paid?
Well, it's not about being paid. It's more about whether they pass the compliance. And to be honest, I don't know exactly what the rules are for passing the compliance, but I'd like to think that because you don't have money in your bank account doesn't make you a criminal. You know, so I don't see why you wouldn't pass the compliance. I think it's more to ensure that there's no, I mean, somebody who has huge sums of money in there but can't explain where it came from is actually more at risk of failing the compliance assessment than somebody who doesn't have money in there and just says, well, you know, this is my first player that I've transferred, I've just opened a new bank account. You know, so that shouldn't write anybody off now.
But I can add something, I thank you for your answer first, but if the club doesn't have a bank account, according to the FIFA clearinghouse, the club doesn't pass the compliance assessment. So at FIFA give this club, I think, another opportunity to try to pass a compliance assessment. If the club doesn't do so, maybe FIFA don't give this club the amount, they give the amount to the federation, and the federation should to distribute or to pay this amount for to develop the grassroots. I think so, according to FIFA clearinghouse, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but it was more about whether a blank bank statement.
The blank?
Yes. So if you don't have money in your bank account,
there's
no activity there.
I think it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I hope that
you have to have a bank account, whether empty or
empty.
Yes, but you have to have a bank account in the name of the club.
The issue is not about whether you have money in the account or not. It is about consistency in the documents you submit. So if, for example, now the bank account has different name from the other documents you submit, definitely you will fail the assessment test. And if the bank account, it is to avoid a situation whereby probably the chairman of the club would want to use his personal account when other directors would not know when the monies will be lodged. So it is not about the bank account, whether it has money or not. It is about the consistency in the all documentation of the club.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope the person that asked this question is satisfied with the answers. All right, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have, I know a lot of us still have a lot of questions. I mean, personally, I do not want this session to end. And with the panelists here, I'm sure they even still want to talk some more, but time is against us. And like I said earlier, we value your time. There are still lots of things to do. And I'm sure after the events, further questions can be asked to our guests. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I say anything else, please can we give our panelists another powerful round of applause. This clap is not loud enough. Please can we make it louder? I'm sure you've gained a lot of knowledge. I personally have. As Mr. Okebi said, we are on the right path. And so from here onwards, it's forward, not backward. With the things that we have learned, I'm sure that we're going to go out and not only preach the gospel, but make positive changes. Because at the end of the day, it's not just in acquiring knowledge. What are you doing with the knowledge? What impact are you making in your society and in the nation as a whole? Please, another round of applause to yourself. For yourself for paying attention and for contributing. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the part I've been waiting for. It is time, it is the moment we all have been waiting for. It is time for the grand finale of the Football Law Annual Moot competition. I thought I would hear a round of applause. Now, let me give you okay, I was told that the break will be after the competition, but what are the we need to listen to our audience, not about us now. What does the audience want? The break, right? Do we all support the break, or should we move forward to the competition?
Break.
Exactly.
I support the break too. Those that are in support of the break, say aye. Okay, no problem. Then
Human brain retention.
exactly. To prevent information overload. Okay, and we are prepared for a break afterwards. As you can see, we have refreshments behind, some tea break. So if you want to use the restroom and just stretch your legs, this is the best opportunity to do so. So yeah, we can go on the break now. Okay.
Well, the panelists, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish that I stay up to the end of this program, but I have other activities that I would have to go and attend to. But I can tell you that my colleague, the Director of Legal Services, is here, and whatever is discussed in my absence, I believe he will brief us and we'll take it from there. I also want to believe that this event has been very beneficial, and I learned a lot, and I believe most of us here must have also learned one or two things. I wish you the very best. As I said, I wish to be here, but I should go because I'm attending another event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the wonderful insights that you contributed to this occasion. Your presence here means a lot to us, and we are sad to see you leave, but I'm glad that you are here nonetheless. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we go on our break, please, I would like to invite Dr. Emmanuel Olowunonu, who just recently authored a best-selling book titled Sports and Law Practice in Nigeria. And in just 2 minutes, he will just give us a synopsis of this book.
All right, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure being here today, and I'd like to thank Pius for putting this together and inviting us. The issues we'll be discussing, just like I said in one of my papers, whether what is good for the goose is always good for the gander. It's always important that FIFA, we examine the interest and the development of football across the continent instead of one straight bullet for all situations. I want to thank the various speakers. I've really learned so much from the presentation today. All right, with respect to my book, let me, for the first time again, since this is a public forum, acknowledge the contribution of the Nigeria Football Federation and Doctor for the contribution. And the book is available. If anybody cares for a copy, you will certainly get it from the organizer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As he said, the book is available, so if you are interested, you can meet him during the break or after the event. Okay, so the break has begun. It's a 15 minutes break, so you can just put your timers on. Stretch your legs if you want to. Behind the hall, there are some snacks. Use the restroom if you want to. And in 15 minutes, we will be back here for the highlights of today.
Sorry, hello.
Okay.
Should we switch it? It's fine. It's fine.
Yes.